I stopped counting on day 22, not because I'd forgotten. I've never forgotten a number in my life. Operations managers don't forget numbers. We track shipping manifests, warehouse capacities, delivery windows down to the quarter hour. Numbers are clean. Numbers don't lie to your face while checking their phone under the dinner table. Laura rejected me for 3 weeks straight. Not with words. Words would have been honest. She did it with logistics. Late meetings that ran past midnight. Gym sessions that somehow required 2 hours for a 30-minute workout. A sudden need for personal space that coincided perfectly with my attempts at physical affection. I know what rejection looks like when it wears business casual and smells like someone else's cologne. Day 1, I'd tried talking. She'd smiled that HR smile, the one she uses on employees right before documenting them for termination, and said I was being paranoid. Day 4, I'd suggested counseling. She'd laughed and told me I was overthinking things. Day 9, I'd asked if we could at least have dinner together without her phone face up on the table. That's when she said it. You should use that time for something useful, Evan. I remember the exact inflection, the slight emphasis on useful, like I was a broken appliance she'd been meaning to replace. We were standing in our kitchen, the same kitchen where we'd planned our wedding menu 6 years ago, and she said it while pouring herself wine she didn't offer to share. I nodded, didn't argue, just nodded and walked to my home office. That's when I started tracking. Not like some obsessed husband in a bad television movie. I didn't install spyware or hire a private investigator. I didn't need to. Laura was careful, but she wasn't invisible, and she'd gotten comfortable with my supposed obliviousness. She worked in corporate compliance. Her entire job was managing risk, covering exposure, maintaining appearances. She was good at it. Her company's legal department loved her because she made problems disappear before they became lawsuits. But she'd made one critical miscalculation. She'd underestimated the man who'd been managing supply chain logistics for 12 years. I knew her patterns better than she knew them herself. Laura left for work every morning at 7:15. Except on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when she left at 6:45 for her early strategy meetings. Those meetings never appeared on our shared calendar, the one we'd set up 3 years ago when we bought the house together. The calendar she'd insisted on for communication and partnership. She started getting text messages at odd hours. Not late-night texts. Those would have been suspicious. No, these came at 7:30 in the morning, during her lunch break, right before she said she was going to bed. The pattern was too precise to be random. I watched her typing responses, not over her shoulder. I'm not an amateur. I watched her face, the micro-expressions, the way her lips curved just slightly when she was crafting a reply, the way she angled her body away from me, creating a physical barrier with her shoulder. She was good at hiding the content. Terrible at hiding the context. Day 14, I tested a theory. I came home early from work, something I never do. Told her I had a migraine and needed to lie down. She was in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. She practically threw it into her purse when I walked in. You okay? She'd asked, and there was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Irritation, like I'd interrupted something important. Just tired, I said. Long day. You should rest, she replied, already standing, already leaving. I'll order dinner. Ty okay? We used to cook together on Wednesdays. It was our thing. But that was before the last 3 weeks. Ty's fine, I said. She left the bedroom. I heard her in the hallway, heard the soft click of her returning a text message. Quick, efficient. Then footsteps down the stairs. I didn't follow. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling and did the math. 3 weeks of rejection. 14 days of suspicious patterns. A wife who worked in compliance suddenly getting sloppy with her operational security. The statistical probability of coincidence was approaching 0. Day 18, I confirmed it without breaking a single law. We had a shared streaming account. One of those family plans where everyone gets their own profile. I'd set it up 2 years ago, linked our email addresses for billing notifications, standard household logistics. That morning, I got a notification on my phone. Your profile is now streaming on a new device. Except I was at work, and Laura was supposedly in her office across town. I opened the app. Someone was watching a movie on her profile. A romantic comedy I knew she'd never choose, because she'd told me 6 months ago that rom-coms are formulaic garbage for people who don't read. But here's the thing about streaming services. They show you the device location if you're on the same network plan. The movie was playing from an address I didn't recognize. Residential neighborhood. 15 minutes from her office. I pulled up the address on a map. Apartment complex. The kind with modern amenities and month-to-month leases. The kind where people who value flexibility lived. I didn't need a private investigator anymore. Day 20, Laura came home 2 hours late. Told me she'd been at a client dinner. I asked which client. She named one of her company's smaller accounts, some tech startup in the North District. I nodded, made sympathetic noises about long hours, asked if the dinner went well. Exhausting, she said, dropping her purse on the counter. These startup people never stop talking. What did you eat? I asked. Casual question, the kind of question a normal husband asks. She paused. Just a half second. Most people wouldn't notice. Italian, she said. Someplace they recommended. Nice, I said. You smell like Thai food, though. Her face went blank. Professional blank, the expression she used in depositions. They had Thai takeout in the office, she said. After the dinner, working session. Makes sense, I said. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. But I wasn't asking for sense anymore. I was collecting data points. Day 21, I stayed late at my office and made 3 phone calls. First call, my bank. Verified all our accounts were individual, not joint. We'd kept separate finances after marriage because Laura had student loans she wanted to own independently. Her words. I'd thought it was noble at the time. Second call, our landlord. Confirmed our lease terms, month to month after the first year. Either party could terminate with 30 days' notice. Third call, my own HR department. Asked about benefits documentation if a spouse were to be removed from a policy. Generic question. Routine inquiry. The kind of thing operations managers ask when they're planning scenarios. Day 22, Laura came home at 6:30. Early for her new schedule. She found me in the living room, reading logistics reports on my tablet. We need to talk, she said. I looked up. She was standing in the doorway, still wearing her work clothes, arms crossed, defensive posture, preloaded for confrontation. Okay, I said. I need more space, she said. No preamble. Just the statement, delivered like a policy update. I think we should consider some time apart. How much time? I asked. I don't know, a few weeks, maybe longer. I need to figure some things out. About us? About myself, she said, and there it was again, that slight edge in her voice, irritation at having to explain. About what I want. I set the tablet down, looked at her directly, let the silence stretch just long enough to be uncomfortable. You've been thinking about this for a while, I said. Not a question. Yes. 3 weeks? She blinked. I'm not sure what... You've been pulling away for 3 weeks, I said. I'm just confirming the timeline. Evan, don't make this what? Factual? Her jaw tightened. I'm trying to be honest with you. Are you? Yes. I stood up, walked past her into the kitchen, poured myself water from the filtered pitcher, took my time with it, let her stand there in the doorway, waiting. When I turned back around, she hadn't moved. Remember what you told me? I asked. Day 9. You said I should use that time for something useful. I didn't mean... I did, I said. I used it. 22 days. Very useful. Her expression shifted, uncertainty creeping in around the edges. What are you talking about? I'm saying you're right. We should take time apart. In fact, you should start packing tonight. Excuse me? Your mother's house has a guest room, I said. 2 guest rooms, actually. You've told me about them. She's always saying, "You're welcome anytime." Laura stared at me, actually stared, like I'd started speaking another language. You can't be serious. Call her tonight, I said. Tell her you're moving in, temporarily, while you figure things out. This is my house, Evan. No, I said. It's a rental property with both our names on a month-to-month lease, and I'm not leaving. So you are. She laughed. Not a real laugh. A sharp, disbelieving sound. You can't just... I can, I said, and I am. You wanted space. I'm giving you space, 30 miles of it. Your mother lives in a nice neighborhood, quiet, good schools nearby, if that ever becomes relevant again. You're being ridiculous. I'm being useful, I said. You should pack now. Tonight, I'll help you load the car. That's when she froze. Not a pause, not a hesitation, a full freeze, like someone had pressed pause on her entire nervous system. Her face went pale. Her hands, which had been gesturing emphatically, dropped to her sides. Evan, she said, and her voice was different now, smaller. What exactly do you think is happening here? I think you need space, I said. And I'm respecting that. What else would I think? She studied my face, looking for tells, looking for emotion. But I'd spent 3 weeks watching her perform, and I'd learned from a master. I'll need time to arrange things, she said finally. You have until tomorrow night, I said. I'll change the locks on Thursday morning. You can't. I can. Month-to-month lease, remember? I already talked to the landlord. Very understanding guy. Sympathetic to situations where couples need space. Laura's phone buzzed in her purse. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. She didn't reach for it. This is insane, she said. This is logistics, I said. I'm good at logistics. I walked past her, back toward the living room, back to my tablet and my reports. I sat down, picked up where I'd left off. Behind me, I heard her breathing. Fast, shallow. The sound of someone whose carefully managed narrative had just collapsed. 22 days, I said without looking up. You were right. Very useful time. She stood there for another 30 seconds. Then she turned and walked upstairs. I heard her on the phone. Couldn't make out the words, but I heard the tone. Urgent, stressed, seeking advice from someone who wasn't her mother. I went back to my logistics reports. The numbers were clean. The numbers made sense. Everything else could wait until morning. Laura didn't pack that night. She locked herself in our bedroom and made phone calls until almost midnight. I could hear the muffled rhythm of conversation through the walls. Not words, just cadence. Question, pause, explanation, pause, longer explanation. The pattern of someone justifying decisions to an audience that wasn't convinced. I slept on the couch, not because I was being dramatic, because the bedroom door had a lock and she'd used it, and I wasn't going to play the humiliated husband pounding on doors. That wasn't the role I needed. I needed to be reasonable, calm, the one making rational decisions while her world stopped making sense. Morning came. She emerged at 6:30, already dressed for work. Professional armor, charcoal suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back in that severe style she used for difficult meetings. She looked like she was preparing for a deposition. I was making coffee when she came downstairs. I'd already been awake for an hour, reviewing documentation I'd compiled over the past 3 weeks. Not evidence, not yet, just patterns, timelines, discrepancies. We need to talk about yesterday, she said. I poured coffee into 2 mugs, handed her one. She took it automatically, muscle memory overriding the tension. What about it? I asked. You can't force me out of my own home, Evan. Our home, I corrected. And I'm not forcing anything. I'm suggesting you take the space you asked for. You said you needed time apart to figure things out. I'm facilitating that. By threatening to change the locks? By respecting your stated needs, I said. You want separation. I'm providing separation. The alternative is we both stay here, living in the same space while you figure things out, which sounds uncomfortable for everyone. She set the mug down without drinking. This isn't what I meant. Then what did you mean? I meant we should take a break, see other people, not live together while we sort through things. There it was. See other people. The phrase people use when they're already seeing someone else and want retroactive permission. Interesting, I said. How long have you been thinking about seeing other people? I'm not. This isn't about someone else. I didn't say it was. Her face flushed, professional composure cracking around the edges. You're twisting my words. I'm clarifying them, I said. You want to see other people. That's a significant relationship change. That requires distance. Hence, your mother's house. My mother doesn't need to be involved in this. She won't mind, I said. You've always said she loves having you around. This gives you time with her while you explore your options. Laura picked up her purse. I'm going to work. When I come home tonight, we're having a real conversation about this. Sure, I said. Will you be home for dinner, or do you have plans? The question landed exactly how I intended. She stiffened. I'll be home by 7. Great, I said. I'll order something. Ty okay? She left without answering. I gave her 10 minutes. Then I got in my car and drove to work. My office was in a warehouse district on the east side. Nothing glamorous, just a climate-controlled space surrounded by loading docks and industrial park landscaping. I managed inventory flow for a mid-sized distribution company. We handled everything from electronics to furniture to bulk dry goods. Not exciting, but stable. Predictable. My boss, Jim Torrance, liked predictability. He'd been running the operation for 15 years and had exactly zero tolerance for chaos. I found him in the main warehouse, inspecting a shipment of office chairs that had arrived damaged. Morning, Evan, he said. We've got a problem with the supplier. Half these chairs have broken armrests. Document everything, I said. Photos, tracking numbers, condition on arrival. I'll draft the claim letter this afternoon. Already done. You trained the receiving team well. That's the job, I said. Jim looked at me more carefully. You okay? You look tired. Rough night. Personal stuff. Laura okay? She's fine. We're just working through some things. He nodded. Jim was divorced. He understood the vague language people use when their marriages are failing, but they're not ready to admit it publicly. Take the time you need, he said. Operations are running smooth. You've got coverage. Appreciate it, I said. I spent the morning at my desk, but I wasn't working on distribution reports. I was working on Laura. Her company was called Meridian Group, corporate compliance and risk management. They had offices downtown in one of those glass towers with abstract art in the lobby and overpriced coffee in the break rooms. I'd met her there once 6 months ago, when I'd surprised her with lunch. She'd seemed uncomfortable with the surprise, said she was too busy, had meetings back-to-back, couldn't take time. I'd left the lunch with the receptionist and driven away feeling stupid. Now I pulled up Meridian Group's website, staff directory. Laura was listed under the risk management division. Her photo showed her in that same severe haircut, same professional expression. I scrolled through her department. 12 other people, 7 men, 5 women. All had job titles that were variations of consultant or specialist or coordinator. The kind of titles that meant everything and nothing. None of the men looked like someone who'd caused this kind of disruption. But I wasn't looking for men in her department. I was looking for patterns in her calendar. We still had the shared calendar. She hadn't removed me. Probably forgot about it in the midst of managing her double life. I opened it on my phone, scrolled back through the last 3 weeks. Tuesday and Thursday early meetings. No details, just block time labeled external consultation. 3 lunch appointments marked client development. 2 evening events listed as networking dinner, all vague, all plausibly work-related, all perfectly designed to deflect questions. But here's the thing about shared calendars. They sync location data if the user has location services enabled. Laura always had location services enabled. She liked the feature that reminded her about appointments based on where she was. She'd told me it made her feel organized and professional. I opened the location history. It took me 3 minutes to find what I needed. Those Tuesday and Thursday early meetings? Not at her office, not at any client site. They were at that apartment complex I'd identified 3 days ago. The building was called Northbridge Commons. Modern complex, mostly young professionals, the kind of place that advertised luxury studio living and had a gym nobody used. I closed my phone, sat back in my chair, thought about next steps. I didn't need to confront her yet. Confrontation without complete information was just noise. What I needed was context, the who, not just the where. That's when I remembered Caleb Ruiz. Caleb ran a small HVAC and maintenance company. We'd hired him last year when our warehouse air conditioning failed during a summer heat wave. He'd done good work, fast and professional, and we'd kept his information on file for future repairs. More importantly, Caleb was the kind of guy who worked everywhere. Warehouses, office buildings, apartment complexes. He knew people, knew buildings, knew the small details that maintenance workers notice and most people ignore. I pulled up his number, called him during my lunch break. "Ruiz Mechanical," he answered. "This is Caleb." "Caleb, it's Evan Mercer from Torrance Distribution. How are you?" "Evan, hey, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" "I've got a question. You do work at apartment complexes, right?" "Sure. Residential, commercial, industrial, whatever needs fixing." "You familiar with Northbridge Commons? North side of town?" "Yeah, I service their HVAC systems." "Why?" "I'm thinking about investing in rental property. Friend of mine mentioned that complex. Wondered what you thought of the building quality." "It's decent," Caleb said. "Good construction, regular maintenance. Tenants are mostly professional types. Quiet. Good management? Solid. They're picky about who they rent to. No drama, you know?" "Makes sense," I said. "You know anyone who lives there? Anyone I could talk to about the tenant experience?" "I know a few people, mostly in passing. There's a guy on the 3rd floor I see sometimes when I'm working. Tech consultant, I think. Always seems stressed." "Tech consultant?" "Yeah, Dylan something. Frost, maybe? He's always on his phone talking about clients and deadlines. You know the type." Dylan Frost. There it was. The name. Not from hacking Laura's phone, not from breaking any laws, just from asking the right question to the right person. "Appreciate the info, Caleb," I said. "If I decide to move forward, I'll let you know." "Anytime, man. Good luck." I hung up, opened a new browser tab, searched Dylan Frost Tech Consultant. 3 results came up immediately. LinkedIn profile, Dylan Frost, independent technology consultant, specializing in digital transformation strategy and organizational efficiency, based in our city. Headshot showed a guy in his early 30s, dark hair, confident smile, wearing a button-down shirt that was trying too hard to look casual. Company website, Frost Consulting Group. One-man operation, judging by the generic stock photos and vague service descriptions. The kind of business that lived and faded on reputation and referrals. Professional network post from 2 months ago. Excited to be partnering with Meridian Group on innovative compliance solutions. Looking forward to building something great together. Meridian Group, Laura's company. I clicked back to LinkedIn, looked at Dylan's connections. 412 people. I recognized 3 names from Laura's department. I looked at his activity feed. Lots of posts about disruption and paradigm shifts and synergistic partnerships. the kind of business speak people use when they're selling services that don't have measurable outcomes. I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, processed. Dylan Frost, independent consultant, working with Laura's company, living at Northbridge Commons, tech industry guy, image dependent, reputation-based income, the kind of person who couldn't afford public embarrassment, the kind of person who'd panic if someone threatened his professional credibility. I didn't need to confront him yet either. I just needed to know he existed, know his pressure points, know what he valued. That evening I was home by 6:15. Laura arrived at 7:30, 90 minutes later than she'd promised. "Sorry," she said, not sounding sorry. "Client call ran long." "No problem," I said. "I ordered pizza. Your half's in the fridge." She looked at me like I'd just spoken in code. "You're being weird." "I'm being accommodating," I said. "You wanted space. I'm giving you space. You wanted me to be useful. I'm being useful." "By telling me to move out?" "By respecting your needs," I said. "Have you talked to your mother?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm not moving in with my mother, Evan. I'm 32 years old." "Then find somewhere else," I said. "But you're not staying here while you see other people." "That's not fair to me." She set her purse down, crossed her arms. Professional negotiation stance. "What if I said I changed my mind? What if I said I want to work on things?" "Then we'd work on things," I said. "But you'd need to mean it. No more late meetings at places you're not supposed to be. No more mysterious text messages. No more 3-week rejection stretches." Her face went carefully blank. "What are you implying?" "I'm implying you haven't been honest," I said. "And until you decide to be honest, you need to be somewhere else." "You're being paranoid." "Maybe," I said. "But I'd rather be paranoid in my own space than paranoid while sharing a bed with someone who's checking her phone at 2 a.m. She stared at me, calculating, trying to figure out what I knew versus what I suspected. "I'll stay with my mother," she said finally. "Temporarily, until we figure out next steps." "Good," I said. "When are you packing?" "This weekend." "Great," I said. "I'll help you load the car." She went upstairs without eating her pizza. I heard her on the phone again. Same urgent tone, same pattern of explanation and justification. I didn't care who she was talking to. I already knew. Laura moved out on Saturday morning. She did it efficiently, the way she approached everything, planned, organized, emotionally detached. She'd brought boxes from her office, the kind with handles and corporate logos, and packed systematically. Clothes first, toiletries, laptop and chargers. Books she hadn't opened in years but kept for appearances. I helped carry boxes to her car. Didn't say much. Neither did she. We moved through the house like co-workers dismantling a project that had been canceled mid-development. Her mother called while we were loading the trunk. Laura stepped away to take it, walked to the far end of the driveway where I wouldn't overhear. I could see her gesturing, defensive posture again, explaining something that required multiple hand movements and emphasis. When she came back, her face was tight. "My mother wants to know what happened." "What did you tell her?" "That we're taking a break, working through some things." "That's accurate," I said. "She wants to talk to you." "I'm sure she does," I said. "Tell her I'm available whenever she wants to call." Laura stared at me. "You're really going to do this? Make me explain to my mother that my marriage is falling apart?" "Your marriage," I said. "Your explanation. You're unbelievable." "I'm consistent," I said. "You wanted space. You're getting space. Everything else is just logistics." She slammed the trunk harder than necessary. "I'll be back next week for the rest of my things." "Text me first," I said, "so I know when to expect you." She drove away without saying goodbye. I watched her car disappear down the street, then went back inside. The house felt different. Not empty. Half her stuff was still here, just less tense, like a pressure valve had been released. I spent the afternoon cleaning. Not therapeutic cleaning, practical cleaning, removing traces, resetting the space to something that felt like mine instead of ours. I boxed up the photos from our wedding, not because I was sentimental, because they were evidence of something that no longer existed, and I didn't need the visual reminder. I cleared out the half-empty bottles of wine she'd left in the kitchen, the specialty coffee she liked, the organic crackers she'd insisted on buying even though she never ate them. By evening, the house looked like a bachelor's apartment. Clean, minimal, functional. I ordered Thai food, ate it while watching a documentary about supply chain optimization. Went to bed at 10:30. Sunday, I didn't hear from her. Monday morning, I went back to work. Jim asked how things were going. I told him Laura and I were figuring things out. He nodded, asked no follow-up questions, and we moved on to talking about delayed shipments from the West Coast. That afternoon, I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for Laura to be honest. I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to control the narrative. I was going to control the timeline, and that meant dealing with Dylan Frost. I didn't have a plan yet, not a complete one, but I had information, and information was the first step toward action. I knew where he lived, knew what he did, knew he was tied to Laura's company through professional relationships that depended on discretion and reputation. What I didn't know was how deep this went, how long it had been happening, whether Laura was planning to leave me for him or just using him as an escape hatch while she kept her options open. Those details mattered. Not emotionally, I was done with the emotional component, but tactically. If I was going to make this hurt, I needed to know exactly where to apply pressure. Tuesday evening, I drove to Northbridge Commons. I didn't park in their lot. Too obvious. Instead, I parked 2 blocks away at a strip mall and walked. Residential neighborhood, plenty of foot traffic, nobody paying attention to a guy in jeans and a jacket taking an evening walk. The complex had 3 buildings arranged around a central courtyard. Nice landscaping. Well-lit pathways. Security cameras at the main entrances. The kind of place designed to make residents feel safe while remaining accessible enough to avoid feeling like a fortress. I found the building directory near the front entrance. Resident names weren't listed, privacy policy probably, but unit numbers were. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check a message, and noted the layout. 3rd floor, Caleb had said. I scanned the mailboxes through the glass. They were organized numerically. 3rd floor unit started at 301. I didn't try to get inside. That would have been stupid. Instead, I walked the perimeter, noted the parking garage entrance, the side door that led to the fitness center, the loading dock around back where delivery trucks probably dropped off packages. Then I walked back to my car and drove home. Wednesday, Laura texted me. Coming by Thursday afternoon to get more things. We'll be there around 4. I replied, works for me. I'll make sure I'm home. She didn't respond. Thursday, I left work early, got home by 3:30, made coffee, waited. Laura arrived at 4:15. She had her mother with her this time. Martha Keene was exactly what you'd expect from someone who'd raised Laura. Polished, image-conscious, the kind of woman who wore pearls to go grocery shopping. She'd always been polite to me, in that distant way people are polite to service workers they'll never see again. Evan, she said when I opened the door. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Martha. How are you? Concerned, she said. Laura's told me what's happening, and I have to say, I'm surprised. You two always seemed so stable. Things change, I said. Apparently, Martha said, and there was an edge in her voice. Like this was somehow my fault, like I'd been the one creating distance and manufacturing excuses. Laura pushed past both of us. I'll just get my things. Take your time, I said. Martha followed her inside. I stayed by the door, giving them space. Let them have their mother-daughter conversation about the terrible husband who was forcing his wife out of her own home. They were upstairs for 20 minutes. I heard drawers opening, closet doors, the efficient sounds of someone packing to leave permanently, not temporarily. When they came back down, Laura was carrying 2 more boxes. Martha had a hanging garment bag draped over one arm. "Is this really necessary?" Martha asked me. "Forcing her out like this?" "I'm not forcing anyone," I said. "Laura said she needed space. I'm providing it. That's all." "You could provide space without making her move out entirely." "Could I?" I asked. "How would that work exactly? We both live here, both sleeping in separate rooms, both pretending everything's fine while she figures things out? That sounds healthy to you?" Martha's face tightened. "Don't be condescending." "I'm not," I said. "I'm being practical. Laura wanted separation. This is separation. If she changes her mind and wants to work on the marriage, we can talk about that, but not while she's keeping one foot out the door." Laura set the boxes down. "Can we just go, Mom, please?" "He's being unreasonable, sweetheart." "He's being Evan," Laura said, and something in her tone made Martha stop arguing. They carried the boxes to Martha's car. I watched from the doorway. Didn't help this time. When they were done, Laura came back up the driveway alone. "My mother thinks you're having a breakdown," she said. "Your mother can think whatever she wants." "Are you? Having a breakdown?" "No," I said. "I'm being clear about boundaries. That's not a breakdown. That's the opposite of a breakdown." She studied my face, looking for cracks, looking for emotion she could leverage. "What do you want from me, Evan?" "Honesty," I said. "That's all I've ever wanted. I've been honest." "Have you?" "Yes." "Then tell me about Dylan Frost." The name hit her like a physical blow. Her face went white. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Don't lie," I said. "Not now. Not about this. Just tell me the truth." She took a step back, looked toward her mother's car, like she was calculating whether she could get there before I said something else. "How did you—" "Doesn't matter how," I said. "What matters is, you've been lying for weeks, maybe longer, and you made me feel crazy for noticing." "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She didn't answer. Just stood there, trapped between confession and denial, trying to find a third option that didn't exist. "That's what I thought," I said. "Go stay with your mother, figure out what you want, but don't come back here until you're ready to tell me the truth. All of it." "Evan, go." She went. I watched them drive away, then closed the door and locked it. My phone buzzed 30 seconds later. Text message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. This is Dylan." I stared at the message. Didn't reply. Just saved the number in my contacts under a name I'd remember. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and started planning, because useful time wasn't over yet. It was just getting started. Dylan Frost called me 3 times that night. I didn't answer. Let each call go to voicemail. Listened to his messages later, analyzing tone and word choice like I was reviewing vendor contracts. Message 1, 8:15 p.m. "Hey, Evan, this is Dylan Frost. We should talk. Call me back when you get this." Confident. Controlled. The voice of someone used to managing conversations and outcomes. Message 2, 9:40 p.m. "Evan, I know Laura told you about me. We really should talk before this gets out of hand. I'm available tonight if you want to meet somewhere." Less confident. The word choice had shifted. Before this gets out of hand implied awareness that control was slipping. Good. Message 3, 10:50 p.m. "Look, man, I don't know what Laura said, but there's context here. I'm not trying to create problems. Just call me back, please." That please was significant. The confident consultant had become the nervous third party. The power dynamic was shifting. I deleted all 3 messages and went to bed. Friday morning, I called Caleb Ruiz again. "Evan," he answered. "What's up?" "I need a favor. Professional favor. I'll pay your standard rate." "Okay, what kind of favor?" "I need to do an inspection at Northbridge Commons. checking out the maintenance quality before I commit to anything. You still have access to that building? Yeah, I'm actually scheduled to be there this afternoon. HVAC maintenance on the second and third floors. You want to come along? What time? 2 o'clock. Meet me in the parking garage? Perfect, I said. See you then. I took a half day at work. Told Jim I had a personal appointment. He didn't ask questions. I arrived at Northbridge Commons at 1:50. Caleb was already there, van parked near the service entrance, toolbox in hand. Ready to see some air conditioning systems? He asked. Absolutely. He laughed. You're serious about this property investment thing, huh? Very serious, I said. We took the service elevator to the third floor. Caleb propped the maintenance room door open and started checking pressure gauges and filter conditions. I walked the hallway slowly, noting unit numbers and door configurations. Unit 314 had a welcome mat that said, "Come back with a warrant." Lawyer humor, probably. Unit 318 had a wreath made of dried flowers and inspirational quotes. Unit 322 had nothing. Just a plain door with a brushed steel number plate. Dylan Frost's apartment, according to the building directory I'd memorized. How's it looking? I called to Caleb. Good. System's running clean. Building management takes care of this place. That's what I like to hear, I said. I walked past 322 again. Stood there for a moment, listening. Television on inside. Some news program. Sound of someone moving around. I knocked. Caleb looked up from his work. What are you doing? Talking to a resident, I said. Getting the tenant perspective. Footsteps inside. Door opened. Dylan Frost looked exactly like his LinkedIn photo, except tired. Dark circles under his eyes, hair not quite styled, wearing athletic shorts and a faded college t-shirt. Yeah? He said. Then recognition hit. His face changed. Oh, you're Evan Mercer, I said. Laura's husband. We should talk. He tried to close the door. I put my foot in the gap. Not aggressive, just present, just solid. I don't think that's a good idea, Dylan said. I think it's a great idea, I said. You called me 3 times last night. Seems like you wanted to talk pretty badly. Not here, not like this. Then where? When? You set the terms. He looked past me, saw Caleb watching from the maintenance room. Who's that? Building maintenance, I said. Just doing his job. This is between you and me. Dylan hesitated, calculating, trying to figure out how this played out if he kept the door closed versus if he let me in. 5 minutes, he said finally. That's it. Works for me. He stepped back. I walked inside. The apartment was exactly what I expected. Modern furniture that tried too hard. Expensive electronics. Motivational posters disguised as art. The living space of someone who'd read too many articles about optimizing your environment for success. Nice place, I said. Thanks. Look, Evan. How long? I asked. How long what? How long have you been seeing my wife? He ran a hand through his hair. It's complicated. No, I said. It's simple. You give me a timeline. I don't have to guess. 6 weeks, he said. Maybe 7. I don't know exactly. 6 weeks, I repeated. So this started before she asked for space, before she started rejecting me. This was the cause, not the result. I didn't know she was married at first. Yes, you did, I said. She wears a ring. She talks about me at work. You knew. He looked away. Okay, yeah, I knew. Good, I said. Honesty. That's progress. What do you want, Evan? I want you to understand something, I said. I walked further into the apartment. Not threatening, just occupying space, making him aware of my presence. You're a consultant. Your business depends on reputation, on relationships, on people trusting you to be professional and ethical. I haven't done anything illegal. No, I agreed. But you've done something reputation-destroying. You've been having an affair with a client's employee. That's the kind of thing that ends contracts, That makes companies nervous about working with you. His face went pale. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining consequences, I said. You made choices that have professional implications. I'm just connecting the dots for you. Laura and I, we're not. This isn't just some affair. What is it then? It's real. We have a connection. She's not happy with you. She hasn't been for a long time. That's convenient, I said. Did she tell you that before or after you started visiting her at our house while I was at work? He blinked. I never. Northbridge Commons is 15 minutes from my house, I said. Laura's been leaving work early on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 6 weeks. She's not coming here those days. So where's she going? He didn't answer. Unless she's coming here on different days, I said. Unless this is just the weekday apartment, and you two have another routine I haven't figured out yet. You need to leave, Dylan said. His voice was higher now, stressed. You need to get out of my apartment. I'll leave when we're done talking. We are done. No, I said. We're not. I walked to his window, looked out at the parking lot, saw Caleb's van still parked by the service entrance. You drive a Tesla, right? I asked. Blue Model 3? I saw it on your LinkedIn. You posted about it 6 months ago. Something about investing in the future of sustainable transportation. What does that have to do with anything? Just confirming, I said. Details matter. You understand that, right? You're a consultant. You know that details are what separate good work from great work. Evan, seriously, you need to go. I turned back to face him, held eye contact, let the silence stretch. I'm going to give you a choice, I said. You can end things with Laura today. Clean break. Tell her it was a mistake. Tell her you're not interested anymore. Whatever you want to say. And this conversation stays between us. Or I start making phone calls, Meridian Group's executives, your other clients, professional contacts in your network. I don't have to lie. I just have to tell them the truth, that you've been personally involved with someone at a client company in ways that create ethical conflicts. That's extortion. No, I said. Extortion involves demanding money or property. I'm not asking for anything except you leaving my wife alone. That's just boundaries. He stared at me. You're insane. I'm motivated, I said. There's a difference. I walked toward the door. He didn't try to stop me, didn't say anything else, just stood there, looking like someone who just realized his carefully constructed life had fault lines he hadn't noticed. I opened the door, paused, looked back. One more thing, I said. That Tesla in the parking lot. Check your tires before you drive anywhere. Maintenance issues happen in parking garages sometimes. Nails, sharp objects, you know how it is. I walked out, left the door open behind me. Caleb was packing up his tools when I got back to the maintenance room. All done? He asked. Yeah, I said. Got what I needed. Good tenant conversation? Very informative, I said. We took the elevator down together. As we walked through the parking garage, I saw Dylan's Tesla parked in a reserved spot near the elevator. Pristine. Expensive. The kind of car someone bought to project success they hadn't actually achieved yet. I didn't touch it. Didn't go near it. Just noted its location and walked on. Caleb noticed me looking. Nice car. Very nice, I said. Shame about the tire pressure warning lights on those models. So sensitive, always going off for no reason. Caleb gave me a strange look, but didn't comment. We said goodbye in the parking lot. I paid him cash for his time. He took it, told me to call if I needed anything else, and drove away. I sat in my car for a moment, pulled out my phone, found Dylan's number in my contacts, sent a single text message. Checked your tires yet? I didn't wait for a reply, just started my car and drove home. That evening, Laura called. What did you do? She asked. No preamble, pure anger. I had a conversation. Dylan called me. He said you showed up at his apartment. He said you threatened him. I didn't threaten anyone, I said. I explained consequences. That's different. You can't do this, Evan. I already did. I'm calling the authorities. And telling them what? That your affair partner is upset because your husband talked to him? Good luck with that. They'll be very sympathetic. She made a sound of pure frustration. This is harassment. This is a conversation, I said. Between three adults who made choices. Dylan made choices. You made choices. Now I'm making choices. That's how this works. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said. But you're going to regret it first. I hung up. My phone rang again immediately. I declined the call, turned off notifications. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. Because Dylan Frost wasn't the only target. He was just the first one. Laura didn't call back that night. Dylan didn't text. Radio silence from both of them, which told me everything I needed to know. They were talking to each other, strategizing, trying to figure out how to contain damage they didn't fully understand yet. Good. Let them panic. Let them try to rebuild a narrative that no longer worked. Saturday morning, I went to the office. Not because I had urgent work. Jim had been right. Operations were running smoothly. But because I needed space to think, and my house felt too quiet for the kind of planning I needed to do. I brought my laptop and a legal pad, made a list. What I knew. Laura and Dylan had been involved for at least 6 weeks. Dylan's business was reputation dependent. Meridian Group was one of his clients. Laura worked in risk management at Meridian. Martha Keene valued appearances above everything. What I didn't know. How many people at Meridian knew about Laura and Dylan, whether their relationship violated company policy, what Dylan's other client relationships looked like. Whether Laura was planning to leave me or just keeping her options open, I needed to fill in those gaps, but I needed to do it without creating evidence that could be used against me later. No hacking, no illegal surveillance, just publicly available information and reasonable inquiries. I started with Meridian Group's website, pulled up their company policies page. Most of it was standard corporate language, ethics commitments, diversity statements, compliance protocols. Then I found it. Employee Code of Conduct, Vendor Relationships. I clicked through. Read the entire section. Employees are expected to maintain professional boundaries with all vendors, contractors, and consultants. Personal relationships that create actual or perceived conflicts of interest must be disclosed to human resources immediately. Failure to disclose may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Laura hadn't disclosed. She couldn't have. Disclosure would have meant admitting the relationship existed, and admitting the relationship existed would have meant explaining why she was spending company time with a vendor for non-business reasons. She'd violated policy. Possibly multiple policies, depending on how Meridian defined personal relationships, and whether they had specific rules about romantic involvement. But here was the problem. I couldn't report this myself. If I called Meridian's HR department and said, "My wife is having an affair with one of your vendors," I'd sound like the bitter husband trying to destroy his wife's career out of spite. They'd investigate maybe, but Laura could spin it. Call it a misunderstanding. Say I was harassing her during a difficult separation. No. If this was going to work, Meridian had to discover the problem themselves, or think they discovered it themselves. I opened a new browser tab, searched for Dylan Frost Consultant Reviews, found his company website again, scrolled through his testimonials page. 5 glowing reviews from clients, all generic praise, innovative thinking, exceeded expectations, valuable partnership. 3 of those clients were companies I'd never heard of. Probably small businesses, local operations. But 2 were recognizable. Meridian Group and a fintech startup called Apex Solutions. I clicked through to Apex's website, found their leadership page. CEO was a woman named Rebecca Park. LinkedIn profile showed she'd worked in finance for 15 years, built Apex from the ground up, had strong opinions about disruptive technology and ethical business practices. Ethical business practices. Interesting. I opened LinkedIn, found Rebecca Park's profile, looked at her connections. She was connected to 4 people at Meridian Group, including someone in their executive leadership. Shared professional network. They probably knew each other through industry events, conferences, the usual corporate social circuit. I clicked through the mutual connections. Found one name that stood out. James Brennan, Chief Compliance Officer at Meridian Group. Chief Compliance Officer. That was Laura's ultimate boss. The person responsible for making sure everyone at Meridian followed company policies, including the ones about vendor relationships and conflicts of interest. I sat back, thought about angles. If someone tipped off Brennan about a potential ethics violation, he'd have to investigate. That was his job. And if the investigation revealed that one of his risk management employees was personally involved with a vendor consultant, that would create problems. For Laura, for Dylan, for everyone involved. But I couldn't be the one to tip him off. That was too obvious. What I needed was a third party, someone with legitimate concerns about Dylan's professional conduct, someone who wouldn't be connected to me. I looked at Rebecca Park's profile again. Thought about the fintech industry. Thought about how startup CEOs operated. Then I had it. I opened a new email account, not from my personal address, from a generic Gmail I created using a pseudonym. Took me 3 minutes to set up. Drafted an email. Kept it professional. Concerned but not accusatory. Subject: Professional inquiry regarding Dylan Frost, Frost Consulting. Body: Ms. Park, I hope this email finds you well. I'm reaching out because I understand Apex Solutions has worked with Dylan Frost of Frost Consulting Group. I'm currently conducting due diligence on Mr. Frost for a potential consulting engagement and wanted to gather references from his previous clients. During my research, I came across some concerns regarding his professional boundaries with client organizations. Specifically, I've heard he may have developed personal relationships with client employees that could create conflicts of interest. I wanted to verify whether Apex experienced any similar issues or concerns during your engagement with Mr. Frost. Any insights you could share would be helpful as I evaluate whether to move forward with this partnership. Thank you for your time. Best regards, Michael Patterson, Principal, Patterson Advisory Group. I read it twice, removed anything that sounded too specific, made it vague enough to be plausible, specific enough to trigger concern. Then I hit send. I had no idea if Rebecca Park would respond. She might ignore it entirely, might forward it to Dylan directly and warn him someone was asking questions, but she might also take it seriously, might see it as a red flag about someone she'd trusted with sensitive business information, might reach out to her contacts at Meridian Group to compare notes, and if she did that, if she mentioned Dylan Frost and personal relationships with client employees to anyone at Meridian, the chain reaction would start without any connection to me. I closed the laptop, deleted the browsing history, logged out of the burner email account. Then I drove home and waited. Sunday passed. No calls, no texts, nothing from Laura or Dylan or anyone else. Monday morning, I got a text from Laura. We need to talk. In person. Not about us, about what you're doing. I replied, what am I doing? Don't play games. Dylan's losing clients. Someone's asking questions about him, and it started right after you showed up at his apartment. Sounds like he has professional problems. That's not my responsibility. You're behind this. I had one conversation with him. That's it. If his business is falling apart, maybe he should ask himself why. She didn't respond for 3 hours. Then, I'm coming by tonight. 6 p.m. Be there. I didn't argue. Just replied, fine. She arrived at 6:15. No mother this time. Just her, looking exhausted and angry in equal measure. You need to stop, she said, before I'd even closed the door. Stop what? Whatever you're doing to Dylan, the emails, the calls, the anonymous complaints, all of it. I haven't sent any emails or made any calls, I said. If someone's filing complaints about Dylan, that has nothing to do with me. You're lying. No, I said. I'm not. I talked to Dylan once, at his apartment. That's the extent of my involvement. If other people are concerned about his professional conduct, that's separate from me. She stared at me. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to recognize that actions have consequences, I said. Dylan chose to get personally involved with a client's employee. That creates ethical problems. If those problems are catching up to him, that's on him, not on me. He could lose everything. Then he should have thought about that before. You're destroying his life. No, I said. I'm letting his choices destroy his life. There's a difference. She looked like she wanted to scream. Instead, she just shook her head. I underestimated you. Yes, I said. You did. This isn't over, Evan. Yes, it is, I said. Dylan's done. His reputation's compromised. His client relationships are unstable, and you're tied to him, which means your situation at Meridian is about to become very complicated. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? You violated company policy, I said. Personal relationship with a vendor. Failure to disclose. Your boss? What's his name, Brennan? He's going to find out, if he hasn't already, and when he does, you're going to have to explain why you didn't report it. You told him. I didn't tell anyone anything, I said. But the truth has a way of surfacing, especially in companies that value ethical compliance. That's kind of your whole business model, isn't it? She backed toward the door. Stay away from my job. Stay away from Dylan. Stay away from me. I'm already away from you, I said. You moved out, remember? This is you coming back here. This is you making this conversation happen. She left without responding, slammed the door hard enough that the frame rattled. I stood there for a moment. Then I walked to the kitchen and poured myself water. My phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. We need to meet, face to face. Name the time and place. I didn't reply. Because I didn't need to meet him again. I'd already done what I needed to do, and now all I had to do was wait for everything to collapse. Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. This is Evan. Mr. Mercer, this is James Brennan from Meridian Group. Do you have a moment? I sat down. Yes. What can I do for you? I'm calling because a situation has come to my attention involving your wife, Laura Mercer, and one of our consulting vendors. I understand you may have information that could be relevant to an internal review we're conducting. What kind of review? I'm not at liberty to discuss details, but it involves potential policy violations related to vendor relationships. I know you and Laura are currently separated. I want to be sensitive to that. But if you have any information that would help us understand the nature of the relationship between Laura and Dylan Frost, I'd appreciate your cooperation. I took a breath. Let the silence sit for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to sound reluctant. I don't want to cause problems for Laura, I said. But if this is about Dylan Frost, yes, I have information. Would you be willing to provide a statement? What would that involve? A brief meeting at our offices. Completely confidential, just you and me and possibly one member of our HR team. We'd document what you share, and that documentation would only be used for internal purposes. When? Would tomorrow work? 2 p.m.? I can make that work. Thank you, Mr. Mercer. I know this is difficult. I just want to do the right thing, I said. We ended the call. I sat there for a moment, processing. It had worked. The email to Rebecca Park had triggered exactly the chain reaction I'd anticipated. She'd reached out to Meridian, probably casually, probably just mentioning she'd heard concerns about Dylan Frost's professional boundaries. That inquiry had reached Brennan, who'd started asking questions, and those questions had led him to Laura. And now Meridian was conducting an internal investigation, which meant Laura was about to face consequences that had nothing to do with me personally and everything to do with her own choices. Perfect. Thursday at 2 p.m., I walked into Meridian Group's downtown offices, glass lobby. Abstract art. The receptionist directed me to the 14th floor, where James Brennan met me personally. He was younger than I expected, mid-40s, fit, wearing a suit that cost more than my monthly car payment. Gave me a firm handshake and led me to a conference room. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know this is awkward." "I want to help," I said. We sat down. There was another person in the room, a woman from HR whose name I immediately forgot because I was focused on Brennan. "Let me explain what's happening," Brennan said. "We received information suggesting one of our employees may have violated company policy regarding vendor relationships, specifically that Dylan Frost, who we've contracted for consulting services, has been personally involved with Laura Mercer." "That's accurate," I said. "Can you provide details? Timeline, how you became aware, anything that would help us understand the scope of this situation." I told him everything, not with emotion, with dates, with patterns, with the kind of factual precision that made it clear I wasn't guessing or exaggerating. I told him about the 3 weeks of rejection, the shared calendar discrepancies, Laura's admission that she wanted to see other people, my conversation with Dylan at his apartment, where he'd confirmed they'd been involved for 6 to 7 weeks. I didn't mention the email I'd sent to Rebecca Park, didn't mention my visit to Northbridge Commons as anything other than incidental, just kept it factual and verifiable. Brennan took notes, asked clarifying questions, stayed professional throughout. When I finished, he looked at the HR representative, who nodded. "This is very helpful, Mr. Mercer. I need to be clear. This information will be used solely for our internal review. We won't disclose your involvement unless legally required to do so." "I understand. And I want to say, on a personal level, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. This kind of situation is difficult for everyone involved." "I appreciate that," I said. He stood, shook my hand again. "We'll be in touch if we need any follow-up information." I left the building feeling lighter than I had in weeks. That evening, Laura called. I let it go to voicemail, listened to the message later. "Evan, I know you talked to my company. I know what you said. This is beyond vindictive. You're trying to ruin my career because you're angry about our marriage ending. You're going to regret this." She was wrong. I wasn't angry about the marriage ending. I was angry about the lies, the manipulation, the 3 weeks of rejection, while she pretended I was paranoid for noticing. I deleted the message. Friday morning, Dylan called. I answered this time. "You destroyed me," he said. No preamble, just rage. "Meridian terminated my contract. Apex pulled out. 2 other clients are reviewing their options. My business is done." "That's unfortunate," I said. "You did this. You sent those emails. You made those calls." "I didn't send any emails or make any calls," I said. "What happened to you is a result of your own choices. You got involved with a client's employee. That created ethical problems. Those problems had consequences. I'll take legal action." "For what? Telling the truth? Good luck." He hung up. I went to work. Had a normal day reviewing shipment schedules and inventory reports. Jim asked how I was doing. I told him things were complicated but improving. He nodded, and we moved on. Saturday morning, Laura showed up at my house unannounced. I was making coffee when I heard the key in the lock. She still had her key. I'd forgotten to ask for it back when she moved out. She walked into the kitchen. Looked worse than I'd ever seen her. No professional armor, just jeans and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked exhausted and defeated. "They put me on administrative leave," she said. "Pending investigation. If they find I violated policy, I could be terminated." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. "No, you're not." "You're right," I said. "I'm not. You've ruined my life, Evan, my career, my relationship, everything." "I told the truth to people who asked for it," I said. "That's all I did. The rest is consequences." Dylan's threatening lawsuits, My mother won't speak to me because she found out about the affair from someone at church. I have no job, no income, no relationship. I have nothing. Then you understand how I felt 3 weeks ago, I said. When you rejected me for someone else while making me feel crazy for noticing. She stared at me. I never thought you'd be capable of this. That was your mistake, I said. You underestimated me because I didn't make a scene, because I didn't yell or break things or demand explanations. You thought that meant I was weak. You're not weak, she said quietly. You're cruel. I'm consistent, I said. You made choices. I made choices. Now we both live with the consequences. She walked to the door, paused, looked back. I loved you, she said. At the beginning, I really did. I know, I said. But that doesn't change what you did. She left. This time, she left the key on the counter. I stood there in my kitchen, drinking coffee, listening to the silence. It was over. Laura had lost her job, her relationship, her mother's respect. Dylan had lost his business, his reputation, his carefully constructed consultant image. And I had my house, my job, my dignity. 3 weeks ago, Laura told me to use my time for something useful. I did.